It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're wrapping up April 2004, April 30th to be exact, with 5 movies to look at. And this weekend is a very special weekend in my life because of one of the 5 movies here. One of them was the first movie I actually got to see on my own in a movie theater. Try to guess which one. I think you might be pleasantly surprised by which one it is. So, I've talked about it before, and very, very rarely on some videos in the past, so if you've been watching my videos for a long time, you pretty much know what it is already, but if you don't, stay tuned to find out. And like I said, try to guess which one, because it's not the one you would think it is. It's not the first movie here, which I did see on the same day that I went to see the movie I went to see on my own, and that, of course, was the biggest hit of the weekend, which was, of course, Mean Girls.
They're me. She's new.
There's this guy in my calculus class. I could talk to him for you.
And on April 30th,
We're gonna do something.
she's not going to take it anymore.
Love ya.
Mean Girls. Rated PG-13. They're coming April 30th.
The real first big film for Lindsay Lohan after Freaky Friday. Avoid Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, because this is the movie where she really gets to show what she can do. And, in the film, she plays a native teenager who transfers to an American high school after years of homeschooling in Africa, and she quickly befriends 2 outcasts played by Lizzie Kaplan and Daniel Franzese, and with the trio forming a plan to exact revenge on Regina George, played by Rachel McAdams, the leader of an envied clique known as the Plastics, which also includes Amanda Seyfried and Lacey Chabert. And the cast of this movie is just expansive, because you got Tina Fey, who also wrote the script for this, Tim Meadows, Anna Gasteyer, Amy Poehler, Neil Flynn from Scrubs. Just a terrific cast overall, and this was based off of a book called Queen Bees and Wannabes. And needless to say, the movie is about as great of a comedy as you can expect it to be. This is, for the 2000s, what Clueless was for the 90s, what Fast Times at Ridgemont High was for the 80s. You know, this is the high school comedy that really cemented the decade as a whole and went on to become the movie that we all remember many decades later. I mean, this thing has gone on to become a cultural phenomenon, and it's not hard to see why. It's a really funny movie. It showcases a lot of young talent in here. Lindsay Lohan coming off of Freaky Friday, showing that, hey, this girl's got a great future, and so does everybody else in the cast. I mean, the Plastics are fun to watch. They're, you know, I saw this when I was 15, and yeah, they looked hot to me. I mean, they still do, honestly. They've aged very well. Of course, Rachel McAdams, she's gone on to become an Oscar-nominated actress. Amanda Seyfried's been in a lot of really good stuff. Lacey Chabert, who had already pretty much had made her name with stuff like Party of 5 and The Wild Thornberrys. I mean, this was a chance to show what she can do, and everybody in here is really, really good. I mean, the film really is a well-made film. A lot of great funny stuff. I mean, this is produced by Lorne Michaels, and that's why there's a lot of SNL talent in here. The film is just incredibly fun to watch. Mark Waters, who directed this, does a very good job of handling this, and it's also very topical, too. I mean, a lot of this stuff you can take today, in today's world, and still work it around here. You got the whole thing about, you know, the cliques in high school, school bullying, the damaging effect they can have on teenagers. I mean, the whole climax of the movie is how the school just erupts into chaos as soon as this journal that they've been talking about gets revealed, and the chaos and hilarity ensues from that as well. It's a movie that is really something that can still hold up even by today's standards, and it just pains me to think that the recent remake we had was so bad. I mean, it's not really it's a remake, but it's mostly based off of the stage musical, but it's a remake. I mean, it's literally the same movie, except the cast is younger, and it's basically adding in musical elements from the musical numbers to make you feel like it's something completely different, when it really is not. It really is not the same. It really is nowhere near as good as this original movie is, and I still can't believe that I'm one of the few people that thinks it's one of the worst movies of the year, because, come on. Which movie would you rather have? Would you rather have the remake, or would you rather have the much funnier original version? I take the original version any day of the week. And yeah, the remake has some good casting in there in general, but it's just the same movie, except put in musical numbers. And, like, they only did it because Mean Girls has become a cultural phenomenon, and you put musical numbers in there, and you put it out in a time when there's no other movies coming out because nobody's putting out any big blockbusters in January. Of course it's going to make the money that it made. Of course it's going to be the big hit it was. I just didn't see it. I didn't like the recent one that just came out, the 2024 one, but but it doesn't take away from my love of the original Mean Girls. It's a really funny movie, really smart, funny stuff. I mean, this is the movie that also shows how good of a writer Tina Fey is, because she later go on to do 30 Rock. She's still one of the best people to come out of Saturday Night Live. I mean, most of the stuff she's done has been really good. I've never seen her in anything really that bad before, and this was the movie that kind of branched her out as well. I mean, this is just a fantastic film. Needless to say, it's definitely one of the best movies of the year, easily, and one of the great high school teen classics of all time. I can't recommend this one enough. Mean Girls, classic movie, need I say more, So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is Pierce Brosnan and Julianne Moore in the romantic comedy Laws of Attraction.
Okay, wake up.
Morning.
Would you please look at your left hand? Please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, why don't you look at that?
Oh, Daniel,
Oh, you got one too.
did we get married last night? We're just gonna have to file and get back to New York, okay? It'll be like it never happened.
But it did happen. Lots of people get drunk without tying them up.
If you had taken the time to examine the document, you wouldn't have predicted. No, clearly you
Counselors! Okay. Whatever the two of you got going on, take it outside.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. Can I say something?
No, you can't.
Why not?
You'll be the laughing stock of New York Bar Association, and because you will say something contrary just to be contrary.
This is my marriage too.
Oh, you see what I mean?
Have some alcohol.
Well, gee, I wonder what's going to happen next. If you can't figure out what's going to happen next at this point, then you really need to go see some more romantic comedies, because this is about as generic and as bland as you can get. This is a story of two New York divorce attorneys played by Pierce Brosnan and Julianne Moore, who are often competing against each other but end up in a relationship nonetheless. When they get married, can they avoid the same issues at home that led people to provide them business at work? One of the central cases in the story is the heavily publicized divorce of a rock star from his wife, and do you really give a shit at this point? Just to show you how bad this movie is, Frances Fisher from 6 Feet Under plays Julianne Moore's mother in the movie. She's only 8 years older than Julianne Moore in real life, and only 1 year older than Pierce Brosnan. Did you really think anybody was going to buy into that? If that doesn't give you an indication of how bad this movie is, then I don't know what else to tell you, because this is a really bad movie. From the director of Johnny English, by the way. Johnny English was a fun movie in general, but this is about as bad as it gets. It's about as lazy as it gets. We've had movies that have been similar to this, that have been done much better. What Happens in Vegas is an example. I mean, there's other movies that I can bring up here. Written by Alan Brosh McKenna, who would later go on to write The Devil Wears Prada, so at least her career got better after this. And, that's about it. I mean, really, there's literally nothing else about this movie that I could say is good. It's a waste of time on everyone's part. Like, it's a lazy movie. Like, you can't buy into the chemistry between Brosnan and Moore. You can't even buy into this world, because, like I said, her mother is played by somebody who's 8 years older than her. How are you supposed to get past that? And you could just tell that the people that made this movie were just like, we don't care if logic makes any sense in here. We want to bring the couples in here. So just here's 5 minutes. Write a script as quickly as you can. That's what I feel like happened here. They rushed this out. They had no intentions on getting this to work the way they wanted to, and it's just a terrible, terrible movie. It's not funny. It's not clever. The chemistry doesn't work. It's a sloppy film, and because there are so many other better movies out there, this one quickly left to everyone's mindset pretty quickly, because, you know, Mean Girls came out the same weekend, and that's a much better movie than this. So yeah, that is The Laws of Attraction. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is Godsend.
Something bad is going to happen.
You can have him back when science cloned your son. They gave him his mother's eyes, his father's smile, and someone else's nightmares. Robert De Niro.
No matter what he does, he's still our son.
Godsend.
I love how the marketing is just putting the focus on Robert De Niro. Yeah, screw Craig Kinnear, screw Rebecca Romijn. No, this is Robert De Niro's movie. And even he would probably look at this and go, yeah, I don't really want to be known that I made this movie, because this is another one of those really, really bad movies where you have Greg Kinnear and Rebecca Romijn, who are a couple who are approached by an enigmatic doctor played by Robert De Niro, who offers to clone their deceased son. And I think we've seen in real life that trying to clone something does not always work out well. And yeah, this is about as bad as it gets. And I swear they cast this kid, Cameron Bright, to be in these movies where he has to look so evil, because they cast him again later on in the year in this movie called Birth, where I guess he's possessed by Nicole Kidman's lover. And in fact, was that this year or was that later on in the year? I can't remember. But he's the same kid from that movie. Now I'm kind of curious. That is 2004. Okay, because I could have sworn I seen this kid in that same movie, and I swear they cast him because he just looks like a kid that you would see in the Omen movies. And you know how bad this movie is when it's ripping off other scenes, and not just ripping them off, literally stealing from other movies. There's a scene they take from this movie, from a Robert Wise movie called Audrey Rose, that is seen as one of the nightmares that this kid has, and like, they don't even hide the fact that it's from that movie. Like, you could just tell. Like, like, you can literally tell there's a difference in the quality from 2004 filming to 1977 filming, because that's when that movie came out. And it's just like, that's how lazy this movie is. This was quickly produced. They wanted to get it out there. These people clearly should have nothing to do with this. This feels like a movie that should have been an independent movie that was not, that had this big... Well, okay, technically Lionsgate was still kind of an independent company around this point, so I guess it makes sense, but they deserve to be in a much better movie than this. And it's PG-13, too, because, hey, we don't care about actually scaring you. We want to scare you on that date night, that Friday when this movie comes out for your date nights, and then we're never going to hear from you again, because nobody's going to remember this movie. And sure enough, nobody remembers this movie after it came out. And, yeah, it did not do very well at the box office either. So, yeah, all losing on the part of Lionsgate here. So, yeah, good job, Lionsgate. You completely ruined your chances of this movie's success with this. But that's nothing more to say about that one. That's Godsend. So let's get to the movie that I have been hyping up for you. Here, this right here is the movie that I saw for the first time. It was my first movie that I ever saw in a movie theater on my own.
Right! It's the invention that made them a fortune. One spray and doggy doo disappears. But everybody wants to know, where does the coop go to? I don't know! Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Envy, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, April 30th.
Of course it was the movie with the dog poop in it. Yeah. Envy was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater on my own. I saw it the very same day as Mean Girls. And I wanted to see it because it was actually a week after the movie had come out. And, you know, this was, you know, the movie was pretty much not a hit at the box office whatsoever. But I wanted to see it. I really wanted to check it out. And I knew that that one day we went to go to the movie theater was my one chance of me seeing the film. So I asked, they let me do it, and the rest is history. Since then, I've been to most of these movies on my own, and believe it or not, this movie actually is a whole lot better than I think people let on. So Ben Stiller and Jack Black star as Tim and Nick, best friends, neighbors, co-workers, whose equal footing is suddenly tripped up when one of Nick's harebrained get-rich-quick schemes actually succeeds. Vaporizer, a spray that literally makes dog poop or any kind, for that matter, evaporate into thin air. To where exactly is anyone's guess. Tim, who had scoffed at Nick's idea and passed up on an opportunity to get in on the deal, can only watch as Nick's fortune and Tim's own envy grow to equally outrageous proportions, when the flames of jealousy are fanned by an oddball drifter played by Christopher Walken, who imposes himself into the situation. Tim's life careens wildly out of control, taking Nick's with it. This was, like I said, it's a film that was not well received by critics and audiences at the time. It was a huge flop at the box office, and even when Shark Tale came out, Ben Stiller, Jack Black, and Jeffrey Katzenberger had to apologize to people for the movie, which, I don't know. I don't know. I still think this is better than Shark Tale was, but that's another story altogether. 2004 actually had some pretty interesting movie theater stories for me personally, but one that I've talked about before here. So if you can find that video on there, you can learn about it now. But I'll get to that one later on if you haven't seen it. But yeah, this movie I think is very much a lot better than the people let on, because mostly one, it kind of predicted the future because now we literally have a vaporizer out there. And I think it's called Poof. I think it is POOPH, where it's literally the same thing. And it's been out for a couple of years now, so it has had some legacy. It's a legacy to it. Plus, I really do think the movie is a lot funnier than people let on. I think it is a very, very decently put together movie. There are moments in here that are very funny, over the top ridiculousness. I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie that really should not work, but it's so silly, it's so ridiculous, but it actually is a lot better than I think people let on. And you can honestly relate to Ben Stiller in this movie. He doesn't get in on this idea, and his life basically just careens off a downward spiral while Jack Black's career goes up. And it gets to a point where like he snaps at his boss at the plant that these guys worked at. And the great thing about that scene is that nowadays I can relate to a scene like that because Ben Stiller gets pushed to this limit, and there's talking. The whole scene in particular, it's really the best scene in the movie where Ben Stiller is talking to his boss about his performance review and how it's down. And, Ben Stiller just has this moment where he just finally snaps. And, he tells off his boss, tells it like it is, how he's really feeling. And just one of the great reactions from Ben Stiller. This is my favorite scene in the whole film.
I would love to see you try to turn your weaselly little mouth into a fake smile. Day after day after day. While you have to wave toodly fucking doo to your best friend who's rearing up on a big white horse like he's the Lone Ranger. Then I'd like to take a peek at your performance chart, you beady-eyed little shrimp-boat bastard!
It is such a pitch-perfect scene because, we've had those bad bosses in our lives or just bad days where we just want to snap at somebody. And, I've been lucky enough for most of my life to contain it, to keep that personal stuff, locked in there, so I don't get into trouble with my bosses or anything. Because I do like my bosses at my job that I work at, but at the same time, you feel the pain that Ben Stiller is going through when in that moment. Like, it's just such a pitch perfect scene, and you have that idea in your head that that's exactly what that would look like if you ever snapped at somebody like that. And it's just like. That's why I really like that scene a lot. I think that is, without a doubt, the best scene in the whole movie for me. But the movie itself, I think, is a lot better than people let on. It's a great, it's a fun little dark comedy. Great, kind of a little bit of overkill, because it's definitely a very flawed film, but I think it's a lot better than people let on. I think it is a very enjoyable film, and I don't know, maybe it's because it holds a special place in my heart as the first film I went to see on my own, but I thought it was a lot better than people let on. It's not just one extended poop joke, really. It's more than that. It's a much funnier film than I think people let on. I think it's actually kind of an underrated little gem. I think it's one that definitely deserves a recommendation. Definitely give it a shot. I think you might be pleasantly surprised by it. It's definitely one of Barry Levinson's better movies coming out around that time when his career was kind of taking a little bit of a downward spiral. And this was kind of the beginning of him kind of slowly but surely coming back a little bit, because he'd have a couple other movies after this that were actually really good. And I think this is a film that is well done on its own. Not a great film overall, but I think it's a whole lot better than I think people let on. It's a really fun film. Envy. Definitely give it a shot. I think you'll find a lot more of it out of it than you would think you would. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, and that is Jesus Christ, Jim Caviezel, following up the Passion of the Christ with Bobby Jones, Stroke of Genius.
You're a frightful long ways from Canusti.
Aye, my arse is painful to prove it.
Riveting. This is based off the life of golfer Bobby Jones, played by Caviezel, the only player in the sport to win all 4 of the men's major golf championships in a single season, 1930, an era when the majors were the Amateur Championship in Britain, the U.S. Amateur, the Open Championship, and the U.S. Open. And the film was the first motion picture concerning the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St. Andrews that was given permission to film on the location of the film. And here's the biggest shocker I found out about this. This is directed by the same guy that did Roadhouse, Roddy Harrington, who did also Striking Distance. And you also got Claire Forlani in here, Malcolm McDowell, Jeremy Northam, Aidan Quinn among the cast here as well. And that was kind of a boring film, honestly. Like, it's hard to make a golf film like a golf drama. Is very good, and there has been one exception to that rule, and I think The Greatest Game Ever Played with Shia LaBeouf is probably one of the best ones overall. I mean, they tried it with The Legend of Bagger Vance, and that didn't work out well. Probably the best golf movie I think I've ever seen is Tin Cup with Kevin Costner and Rene Russo. You know, I've kind of made fun of Kevin Costner a lot over the last couple of months, especially this week with the news that came out about his Horizon film, but you forget Kevin Costner has made some good movies in between those movies where he gambled it all. And Tin Cup is one of those great little underrated gems that really deserves a lot more attention. And this is just kind of a generic, boring film. I mean, there's really nothing about the story in particular that's really all that amazing. It follows the kind of typical bibliography sports dramas that we've seen done over and over again. There's nothing really that significant about it, nothing really that amazing about it that makes it stand out compared to others. It's nothing really that amazing for me. I was really kind of bored by it, honestly. And I should have mentioned Happy Gilmore, too. I probably should have mentioned that among golf comedies, which came out the same year as Tin Cup, by the way. I just realized that. But as far as this movie goes, it's pretty boring, honestly. I really couldn't get a kick out of it. And it's just there. And I don't know. The story really isn't that engaging enough for me to say that you should definitely check it out. But who knows? I'm not really much of a golf person personally, so I don't know. Me personally, I didn't find that much about it, so I thought it was kind of boring. So Bobby Jones' stroke of genius. I'm sure it was a stroke of genius to somebody. And so, with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and it's fitting that the first weekend of the summer falls on the day after the disappointment of the Friends finale, at least for NBC. Because we have three major disappointments here that I'm looking at here, which are going to be very interesting to talk about, including Hugh Jackman in his first big blockbuster after the X-Men movies, Van Helsing. We also have Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who had spent so many years on the direct-to-video market. They head to the big screen with New York Minute, and we also have... And then, I guess the last one's not really much of a disappointment. Why did I say disappointment for the last one? Morgan Spurlock's Super Size Me, I'm sure it was disappointing for McDonald's, knowing that their sequels were pretty much exposed in this film. But we will get to those three movies on the next episode, so be on the lookout for that. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, but until then, as always, take care.